Let me tell you something. When a former child star walks back onto a national stage years later, one of two things happens. Either the audience embraces the comeback with everything they have, or the internet tears it apart piece by piece. Ashley Marina just got both. This performance blew up overnight, and the reaction online is genuinely split in ways I did not expect. Before we get into all of it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel for weekly reaction breakdowns, because we are going deep on this one today. So here is the quick context you need. Ashley Marina is 18 years old, and she is not a newcomer to national television. She appeared on America's Got Talent back in 2020 when she was just 12 years old, and apparently she left enough of an impression that years later, people in the comments are still bringing it up. Now she is stepping into a completely different arena, the voice blind auditions, performing Keith Urban's Tonight I Wanna Cry. 3 chairs turned, she landed on Team Legend, and the internet has been going absolutely wild ever since the clip dropped. Now let me actually break down what happened in this performance, because the numbers alone do not tell you the full story. What Ashley did well here is something a lot of young singers completely fail at. She understood the assignment emotionally before she understood it technically. Tonight I Wanna Cry is not a showpiece song. It is not a song you use to show off a big belt or a power run. It is quiet, it is aching, and it demands that the person singing it actually feel something. And from the first few bars, she made that emotional contract with the room. The comment specifically called out her smoky tone at the opening, and that is worth pausing on. A smoky controlled lower register at 18 is genuinely rare. Most singers that age want to push up into the big moments too quickly. She sat in the feeling instead. The quick flips into head voice that people noticed were not just stylistically interesting, they showed control. She was not accidentally flipping, she was choosing those moments, which is a sign of someone who has been seriously trained. Her voice teacher actually showed up in the reactions and confirmed she studies at Lincoln Park. That detail matters because it explains the discipline behind what looked effortless. One viewer put it perfectly, saying the little imperfections made it better. That is the difference between a technically perfect performance and an emotionally true one. Ashley chose truth over perfection, and the chairs responded. Now for the criticism, and yes, there is real criticism here, not just noise. One viewer argued the performance sounded slightly slurred at points, that the pronunciation was off, and that she went pitchy right when the chairs turned. That last part is actually worth thinking about seriously. The moment of the turn is one of the highest pressure seconds in the entire blind audition format. Nerves hit differently in that instant. If her pitch wavered there, that is a human response, not a talent problem, but it is also fair to note it. Alright, let us get into what the public is actually saying, because the reaction section is where this gets genuinely interesting. The dominant wave online is pure admiration. Multiple people mentioned getting goosebumps. Several viewers said they are actively rooting for her this season. One person said, and I am paraphrasing here, that if they had not seen her, they would have assumed the voice belonged to someone significantly older. That is one of the highest compliments you can give a young singer. It means her emotional maturity outpaces her age, and her instrument has depth that most teenagers simply do not have yet. Her AGT history keeps coming up too. People from Pittsburgh specifically are calling her out as someone who deserved better back then. There is a real loyalty here from people who have followed her journey for years. One viewer mentioned following her since her early days, and specifically referenced a song she wrote about her father. That kind of long-term emotional connection from an audience is incredibly rare and incredibly valuable for a competitive run on a show like The Voice. Then there is the coach reaction discussion, which is honestly its own conversation. Someone pointed out that she made the right call choosing John Legend over being a fangirl about Kelly or Adam. And look, whether you agree with that framing or not, the underlying point is real. Going with the coach who genuinely wants you, who turned first or showed the most enthusiasm, is almost always the smarter competitive decision. Team Legend is not a bad place to be. Now, the critical section of the audience is smaller, but louder in a specific way. The concerns break into two camps. First, there are people who think the song choice was too safe or too familiar, and one person actually brought up the melodic similarity to Wind Beneath My Wings, which once you hear it, you cannot ignore. That is a legitimate artistic observation, not just trolling. Song choice on The Voice matters enormously, and picking something that subconsciously reminds coaches of another iconic song is a double-edged sword. The second camp of critics is smaller still, that people who simply were not moved, and that is fine. Not every performance lands for every person, but what is notable is that the critical voices in this case do not question her raw ability. They question her choices, her song, her moments. That actually means the talent itself is not in dispute, which is a strong position to be in heading into the live shows. There were also a few genuinely funny reactions in the mix. Someone clocked that the espresso song reference hit differently considering the coffee shop performance setup. That is the kind of absurd observation that reminds you the internet is paying very close attention, even when it seems like it is just making jokes. So here is my final verdict. Ashley Marina delivered a performance that was controlled, emotionally intelligent, and vocally distinctive in a way that is genuinely hard to fake. The 3-chair turn validates that. The coach reaction validates that. And the depth of the public response, including people who have followed her for 6 years, validates that this is not a flash in the pan. That said, she's going to face a real test when the format demands bigger moments. The blind audition rewarded her restraint. The knockouts and live shows will require her to show a different dimension. The question is whether the emotional depth she clearly has will translate into competitive power when the stakes are higher and the song choices get harder. Is this a winner-level performance? I think it is a strong foundation. Whether it becomes a winning run depends entirely on what she does next. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Ashley's emotional restraint is her greatest strength, or is it going to work against her when she needs to compete with bigger voices? Was choosing Team Legend the right move, or do you think another coach would have pushed her further? And for those of you who watched her on AGT, do you think she has grown enough to go all the way this time? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe if you are new here, and I will see you in the next breakdown.